prepare yourself. Things are about to get weird. Because this, ladies and gentlemen, is the questionnaire. I am the unknown factor. Yeah, we're just gonna set it off today. Yeah, getting into all kinds of things. Make sure you check out This Month in Comics, where you can hear us talk about this right here, the Unstoppable Doom Patrol. And who will Jane be today? But that's not what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about Chrissy Wiseman. Hopefully, she's not gonna all go crazy like Jane.
No.
You're not gonna go crazy like you're not gonna start splitting personalities on us, developing superpowers.
No.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that because, like, I don't know. I can't believe you don't know of the Unstoppable Doom or of Doom Patrol, Chrissy. I can't, like, and I know. Can I say I know we were discussing this before we actually started the show, but like I understand the superhero fatigue as far as if you watched every superhero show out there, you don't get to watch anything else because there's a lot. But I do highly recommend Doom Patrol for real. I mean, it's got Brendan Fraser cursing up a storm as Robot Man. Like it's it's definitely worth a watch. But I'm gonna pick on you right off the bat, Chrissy. Right off the bat, because like really, Flight. Can you
What'd
hear
you
me?
say?
I said
Yeah, I
really,
can hear you.
Flight. Like you went with Flight of all the
Flight,
superpowers.
yeah.
Why? I mean, like, that's not an answer I ever expected from a comic book creator, to be real honest.
Well, I think a lot of the other powers would come with a lot of like issues, stuff that I wouldn't want to deal with. Because you think about it, like the different side effects that some of the powers come with. And flight, I don't like flying on a plane, but if I could fly under my own power, I could go wherever I wanted.
Yeah, but you might get hit by a plane then if you ain't paying attention. I mean,
I'm
I'm
gonna put
just
that in my
saying.
comics.
Huh?
I have that in one of my comics.
Oh, God.
There's a character who's flying and she gets hit by a plane, which starts. It's yeah, it's a whole thing, and then she falls on a car. Just like you have to understand, like the force that an airplane's going at. It's like it's a few thousand miles an hour. It's
Why
really
are you
fast.
torturing your character? Like, and okay, now I have to ask even more. Why do you pick Flight based on the fact that you've actually already written this in a comic? Did that thought not go through your head? Like, hey, you're flying along, thunk. And I mean, if you only have the power of flight, right? Like, if that's the only power you have, technically it's not thunk. Then technically it's splat.
I know. Like that happens to birds all the time. That's why they have like all these different measures to prevent the birds from, because at a certain cruising altitude is where the planes are going to be. So birds don't go as high as planes do. So they have to try to prevent them from hitting the birds when they're taking off and landing. It's called bird strike.
So 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 how would you prevent? I just got I don't know, man, like how would you prevent yourself from hitting anything flying, especially I mean because if that's the only power that you have, like there is nothing like it's not like you could take a hit at Mach speed and that's another question. Like when you say flight, what level of flight are you talking about? Are you just like, hey, I fly along, or I can hit Mach 5.
I think that I would go with something where I could like go Mach 5, which means I'd have to have the durability to go that fast. Which means I could take a hit. Ow.
But that would still suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's just no. I half want to reject your answer and be like, give me a different superpower you want.
Okay.
I was
Manipulating other people's emotions.
Doing what?
Manipulate someone else's emotions.
Well,
Let's
that's
say you have
just
some cold psychopathic fucker who doesn't understand the emotions that he's actually putting people through. I'll make his ass understand. You want
okay.
to find out what heartbreak really feels like? Take that.
Doing it to that degree, okay. I thought you meant like just like being able to affect people and change their emotions, not actually make them. So you're more making like an empath on a superpower level, but being able to
Yeah,
flip it.
like that's actually one of her abilities. She has a psychokinetic flame, and when she hits people with it, she can control their emotions.
I gotta say, to get to something that didn't suck, the comic I just got through, right? Man, I don't even want to try. I feel like I'm gonna the adventures of. I feel like I'm gonna mispronounce the next word.
Chibi,
Chimmy Chrissy. All right,
chibi.
Chibi. The Adventures of
Chibi.
Chibi Christie. Right. Um, I'm very intrigued by the end of that issue, where that's all gonna go, because I was reading it and I'm like, firstly, is that supposed to be Chris?
That's her brother, yes.
Oh,
Not Chris McDonald. No.
okay, because I was
I
like,
actually have a brother. I have a brother named Chris.
okay, okay, really? You have a brother named Chris and you work with Chris McDonald?
Yes.
First off, for anybody that wants to just watch some real fuckery of a quest, go check out when Chrissy and Chris came on, and yeah, that was nuts. But that's amazing. I would not expect you, just the fact that you have a brother Chris and you ended up working with Chris and doing what you're doing as far as for Vuaska
It's
and
just a
everything.
really common name.
I mean, that's a fair point. It is one of the more common names. Yeah.
And I have a couple of friends named Chris other than him, so
You just hang out with all the Chris's, I see. Fair
yeah.
enough. All right. But back to the comic. What inspired you to write a tale as such, and what inspires you to use yourself as the main character?
It was narrative therapy, really, because I'm a survivor of abuse, child abuse, and growing up and dealing with all of it, I sort of like did narrative therapy and worked through it with characters and stories, and it just turned out that way.
Well, I mean, because I've seen you've been working on the comic for 25 years.
Yeah, I've been working on comics and I've way more stories than this. It's just that I was never satisfied with the art and I would draw the comics and then I would post them and then I would go, I don't like it, and I'd take it down and redraw it.
That
But
makes
this
me
time
curious.
I published it because I'm like, I like it.
And the art's phenomenal. I mean, you can definitely tell there's an anime touch there. You know what I mean? Like, which I think
Yeah.
fits very well with the story and the narrative that you're telling. I think the art style, it suits it, you know? And I think that's something that's very important to a story. I mean, if you look throughout comics, you can see everything from hyper realism to very dark, very rough. You know what I mean? From, like I said, from anything from M3, from Erica Schultz, check out her past interview, to Dead Romans by Nick, who's currently drawing that. You know what I mean? They have very, very different artistic perspectives as far as how they're drawn, and I think that's an important part of a story. And I do think you've really made the art with this story fit the story. I think that's truly important. um, I'm curious, in all honesty, to see the earlier drafts. I'm curious as to what they look like.
I do have some. I wouldn't show them to just anybody, but I would probably show you.
Okay, well, so maybe I'll get to see them, but y'all won't. Eventually you'll get to see these pre-show questionnaires I bring up all the time. We ever get this website set up, but that's neither here nor there. Um, so I know the past quest that we just had that everybody can see with Scott. He said he's got 60 issues planned out of Serial Box Time Machine, right? Which to me is crazy based on the fact that he's just dropping issue one. So I've got to know, based on how long you've been working on this, you're just dropping issue one. How far have you planned this story out? Because it's obviously at least
Well,
a couple issues based on how that ended.
Okay, so that particular series is a small chunk of a much larger series. It's Legends of Memorania, and that's just like one little story arc, and that's a more fun, silly. Kids can pick that one up, but I do have a main series that's like bigger than that, and it's probably going to be anywhere between 50 to 60 issues for all of the different arcs. But this particular one, the Chibi Chrissy one, is only going to be about 6 issues, maybe. So
Well, I mean, because you brought up elves within this comic, but obviously there weren't any elves characters in this comic with the work, were there? I didn't miss something, did I?
no,
Okay.
no.
Just wanted to make sure, man. Sometimes I gotta go through a lot really quick, and it just when I'm trying to gather all the information, you know, yeah, it happens. I didn't. I was under the impression that not though, and I mean, obviously, seeing there was definitely magic within it. Um, how much of a world have you planned out?
25 years worth.
So you're trying to like Lord of the Rings in comic books?
No, it's just it was my own little world, and it just I kept building on it as a kid, and I just I love it so much that I just want to draw it all out, and I love all the stories that I came up with, and I had my biggest fear is that something's gonna happen to me and I'm never gonna be able to finish.
I mean, I think that's fair as far as having that fear as a creator. I mean, if George R. R. Martin ever finishes Game of Thrones, I'll be bloody well amazed. You know what I mean? As far as the book series is concerned. So I understand that as far as, I mean, especially in myself being creative, with doing the music that I do, I've got things I need to get recorded. And part of me is like, man, if that didn't get done, even though I just had it on a page and I never got it on the mic, it would be slightly annoying. So I fully understand that. And I mean, hell, if something happened to me tomorrow, there's a bunch of quests that no one would ever get to see because, yeah, it just they don't. Yeah. So I do understand that fear. Does that does
Yeah.
that ever become a pressing matter? Is that what made you finally decide to be like, I'm gonna put this out?
Yeah, that, and I've gone to like a lot of different conventions and stuff, and I noticed that some young artists who are just starting out are like, oh, my art is crap. But then I've seen professionals like that have like the most amazing work ever. And I'm like, I love this so much. And they're like, yeah, I hate it. And I'm like, what? And then they'll sit there and they'll say, this part right here, and I messed up here. And they'll start pointing out what they see as flaws. And I'm like, I don't even see it. And I'm an artist and I don't see what they're talking about. And then I was like, if they're going to be this harsh on their artwork, I'm gonna stop picking on my artwork. So I'm just gonna start drawing it and putting it out, and fuck it. I'll just get better as I go.
Well, I don't think it's so much. I mean, I think at a certain level you do. Like anybody, like I go back and listen to certain music of mine, and I'm like, son of a bitch, I should have done that there. Son of a bitch, I should have done this there. And I think anybody that works forward in the creative will always look back at something, especially when they progressed in a skill, and be like, damn it, I could have done that better. But I don't think that's any reason to hold it back because I think if you're doing that, it does dull your progress. You know what I mean?
Yes, and that's what happened with me. I ended up snagging and not getting anything put out, nothing finished, and it was I had to learn the mantra: finished, not perfect.
I mean, and that's definitely true in all art. I think if artists and I mean that from comic book in any capacity to people that make film to movies to just painting, sculpting, whatever. I think if people didn't take up that mantra, I don't know how much art there would be in the world.
Yeah.
Because I think very rarely does somebody look at something that they've made like that and go, "Oh, that's perfect." You know, like especially if you get a chance to like put it out and then you look back at it a year later, you're gonna notice something.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you did, Chrissy. I want to point out. I'm very curious to see the rest of this, especially now knowing that you are plotted a whole world. So let me I got to get to this question because it's been tickling the back of my brain since shortly before we started this. So Chrissy in the comic has green hair. You've got green hair. What's up with that?
Okay. So this is going to sound really weird, but when I was a kid, I kept having this dream
Wait.
where
Real quick, Chrissy. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm the unknown factor. That's the stage name I go by as an artist. Do you really think there's much I'm going to consider weird? Go ahead and proceed.
so I had to be about 14 and I kept having this recurring dream where I was an angel. And there would be times where I would look back at my wings and they would be green. And I used to get so annoyed at this as a kid because I was really angsty. And I was like, why couldn't they be black or red or something cool? Why fucking green? And it drove me nuts. And as I got older, I started to appreciate the color. I thought that it was kind of pretty, and it's my birthstone. And then, so I would dye my hair various colors. I would dye it pink and purple and stuff and green. And I thought the green actually kind of looked good. And then my character, when I designed her, she had brown hair like I used to have, and she had green wings. And then 8 years ago, I lost my sister. She ended her life. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and the ribbon color is green. So when I figured that out, I changed the character to have green hair, and I made my hair green perpetually all year round for mental health awareness.
Wouldn't it be nice if people were more aware of mental health than on that one month? Sorry,
That's why I keep it green all year.
Yeah,
And it's a great
obvious.
conversation starter. It
Yeah.
is.
Well, and I mean, we could conduct the rest of this quest on mental health and the fact of how little it's paid attention to within this country, or I mean, you could say pretty much the entirety of this world, as far as we don't worry about the mental health of others enough as far as what they've been through, and be enough of aware of the fact that all individual human beings have at least a slightly different brain chemistry. There are no two. We're all fucking snowflakes. Okay, we're all snowflakes, and that's the truth of it. There are no two individuals that are alike, especially in the capacity of how their brain runs. So that's cool that you did that for your sister. That's really really cool to me. Um, but the fact that it's for that, I think, uh, really is important in a lot of ways because I think it's something we need to focus on. I mean, Doug probably needs to focus a little bit more on his mental health, writing the shit that he does. But I still love Wagner and all his work. That's a whole different point. But when you're writing things like plush and vinyl, it's like, hey man,
Are
this
you
comic,
okay?
like this comic was
um,
glorious, and but at the same time, like I love those comics, so maybe I've got exactly the same kind of issues, and we should all be worried about all of us, to be frank. But do you intend to really play that up in the comic at some point, out of curiosity?
No, not really. She does. I did give her. You know, she's. I kind of have her have like ADHD a little bit. Like that was very apparent in the comic, which you probably noticed.
Yeah, like I wish he'd just stop talking, just blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
He talks too much.
and that's also kind of poking fun at myself because I am extremely ADHD, and that's one of my habits. So, and I don't like the idea of making those self-insert characters that are like the Mary Sues that have no personality and are like perfect, but then have the stupid little like, I'm just a klutzy girl quirks. I hate those. So I like characters that are developed, that have flaws that are realistic, that they have to work through, and having attention problems like that. I thought that would be fun. And again, I'm making fun of myself at it. So
Well, and
and
I
and
think
when I redesigned her, I made her outfit. I changed her outfit too, and I gave her a giant yellow ribbon as a belt. And the yellow ribbon is one of two different suicide prevention ribbons. One of them is teal and purple, and the other one is yellow. And that was my sister's favorite color. And so I also got a tattoo of a yellow rose on my arm.
oh, see, that's cool. I like. I was having a discussion with my roommate earlier as far as the pan con. I should perhaps do, which was just about mental health in comic books. Um, and it makes me curious, Chrissy, how many people do you think create this art as a vent?
We'll never know
Well,
unless
that's
they tell
fair.
you.
Yeah, because I don't think all of them would ever tell you. There's some that's like Doug. Literally, I still I love if you go just watch the very beginning of Doug Wagner's interview. It's fucking hilarious because I start off with I just want to know, is he getting help? Is it working? And if so, can I get a reference? I really need some help. This is how I start. And Doug's like, well, for starters, no, I'm not. That's why I write comics. Essentially saying, like, I use comics as my vent. Um, Doug's a great guy, first. So is everyone else we've had on the quest. I wouldn't say I'm not trying to say anything negative before anybody gets like, no. Fuck you.
Well, it is
Everybody
art
that's been on here is
therapy in
awesome.
and of itself. So as he's
Yeah.
drawing the comics, he is working through art therapy.
Oh well, he's the writer. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
okay.
but still, yeah. I mean, him and Daniel Hillard come up with some things. We'll say for anyone out there that's read plush vinyl or plastic, um, there's some there's some very interesting moments where it's like, oh, those were two guys just sitting in a corner going, "What's the most fucked up shit we can think of?" That's just kind of
I
funny.
don't know
But
if I
it's
could read it. I don't like a lot of dark stuff.
I. If you don't like comics with kind of a darker edge, I wouldn't recommend them, Chrissy. I really wouldn't. I mean, I go all over the place as far as with what I read. Like I enjoyed what I just read from you. I enjoy things like vinyl and plush. Give me it's Jeff too, right? Like I think it's all good and could all serve a purpose. As long as there's a good story there. That's my main focal point is how good the
I
story is.
like my dark stuff to have enough of a humorous edge, like
Then
Evil
you
Dead 2 and Army of Darkness I liked, but the newer stuff, that new Evil Dead Rise, I don't know if I could watch that one.
I
Because it
yeah,
involves kids, and I'm like, no, not the kids.
I think they did make the new Evil Dead from what I've seen preview wise a little bit darker. Yeah, there's not that ash humor, where you got Bruce Campbell just being Bruce Campbell, which is always phenomenal to watch. Um, I don't know.
And
Perhaps.
I did watch the 2013 remake, and I kind of liked it. I mean, it was like really like, oh god, no, they're hurting themselves. Oh no, I don't like it. But I did like it because there was, like I said, I kind of hate that the dog died.
Well, I mean, in that reference, as far as like if you look at Doug's work from the three books that I specifically just mentioned, they're very interesting in the fact that they are very dark characters, but there's twists to them, like like a Hannibal Lecter s twist, and by that I mean the fact that it's like, oh, this dude's a cannibal, but I kind of get him because he's not just maliciously doing this. Even though, dude, you really didn't need to kill. I think it was the violinist just because he was off a little. Like that one was always a little much to me, you know. But when you're killing like really, really evil people, okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Go
like
ahead and eat
Dexter.
them. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much. Hannibal was a little bit worse as far as I mean, you can't kill somebody just for being off at the orchestra. Like it's a it's a hair fucked up, all right. But yeah, Dexter was very much more specific as far as getting evil people. Um, I think a lot of
I mean,
Wagner's
and if you
characters.
kill the musician just because he's off, how's he ever going to improve?
Well, I mean, he was like, I mean, Lecter was going to like a very high end orchestra where I don't think those
Mm.
kind of things were supposed to happen. Like you were supposed to be the best. You weren't supposed to have that issue at that level. You know what I mean? When you're going to like fucking, God, I can't. You're making me wish I'd seen that movie recently so I could quote exactly where he went and everything. But I mean, it was like something like
I mean,
fucking.
how does he know the guy wasn't going through some shit and had some shit on his mind?
I don't
Mental
think he
health.
cared. Yeah, I don't think. But if you've ever read Hannibal Rising or watched the film, more read the book than the film, I think that's kind of explained why Hannibal was as as he was, and he can make it a sympathetic character in that regard. And I think that's something Doug accomplishes. So I take it in this then with what you've written, you're not ever going to see a real dark twist then.
Oh, you'll see some dark twists. Yes.
So how dark we talking?
It makes me cringe to write it.
Well, then let me ask you a question on that note, which I highly recommend you all go check out the Pancom with Steven, Erica, Tom, and Doug that we did discussing whether comics had gotten too dark. Have you ever read any comics that made you cringe so much you're like, I just can't finish this?
Not really, because if I feel that that's going to happen, I wouldn't pick it up. Like, I won't, I have not read The Walking Dead, and I won't watch the show either. It's a little too much for me. I don't like apocalyptic stuff.
You're missing out, Chrissy. I mean,
I know.
as far as on the book, I mean, and look, they should have killed that baby in the show. I don't care what anybody thinks. That
I
baby
don't even
should.
know anything about the babies. So.
Well, I'm telling you, the baby should have died at the prison, and that's a fact. All right, I know that makes it be like, dude, you want the baby to die? The baby needed to die for certain things to play out properly within the story as they should, and they just. And I'm not trying to be a stickler as far as stick to the comic. I understand you can't do the comic perfectly, but like, there's certain moments in comics when you're adapting them. You know what I mean?
Again, I
You
have
should
no
really.
idea what you're talking about because I didn't read or watch.
Okay, well, fair enough though. But you know what I mean when they like if they adapted a favorite comic of yours, whatever the reference was, because I'm sure it's happened in some capacity, right? Right. Don't you feel like there's certain aspects that they should stick to and not go far away from?
It's like G.I. Joe, the movies. They totally ruined all the characters.
See,
Like
I mean,
the Baroness, they made her instead of being, some European socialite, they turned her into an American woman who was in a relationship with Duke, and she wasn't in love with Destro like she was in the comics and the cartoons. She was brainwashed by him. And don't even get me started on what they did with Dr. Mindbender and Cobra Commander. Like, I totally hate that movie. They could have been true to the characters and had a way better movie and still brought in a movie going audience. They don't have to tweak the formula like that. It's like you're ruining grandma's cake because you think it's going to bring in more people.
like Grandma's cake was fine, right?
Exactly. And
You,
they mess
you
with the
here.
formula and they mess with the recipe. That's a winning formula. Then they mess it all up and yeah, sure, you're going to sell some tickets, but it's not quite what it would have been if you would have just followed the formula.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, the A-Team, when they did the A-Team movie, I liked that because they were still true to all the characters' personalities, but then they like expanded on them a little bit. They didn't change their relationships to each other. But I did like that Murdoch was the reason why BA was afraid to fly. And how he was an airborne ranger that was afraid to fly because Murdoch fucked him up. I thought that was a really nice touch.
See, and yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's little things like that when they adapt things, you know, um, like when they brought in Bane. Why didn't he break Batman's back?
Oh yeah,
Huh.
yeah, in the
Yeah, like how awesome would that have been to see in what Dark Knight Rise? No, wait, Dark Knight Rises. Which one? Fuck, which one was that? What was the third Batman film in the Nolan trilogy? It was the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight. No, the Dark. Oh God, man, that's terrible. I should know that, but I'll be honest. The third one was just I was never. Oh no, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises.
yeah.
Yeah, so Dark Knight Rises was the one with Bane. I said it right off the top and
See,
thought I
the
was
thing is, they
freaking
had
wrong.
Bane in Batman and Robin as well. Remember? And he was messed up in that
You
too.
really want to talk about the worst Batman film that's ever been done?
With the bat nips.
Like, no, I can get over the bat nips quicker than I can you making Mr. Freeze jacked like that. Nothing against Arnold Schwarzenegger. Plenty of fine films in his filmography. I mean, there's
Now,
plenty of
did you hear
films.
the theory of why everyone seemed really whacked out and eccentric in Batman and Robin? The fan
No.
theory behind that? Okay, so in the previous movie, Batman Forever, the Riddler, played by Jim Carrey, had that beam where he was like sucking everybody's minds in, and
Yeah.
then when it got reversed and it all went back out, the fan theory is that part of his mind went out and into the people, and that's why in the next movie everyone's eccentric and crazy and all whacked out because they've got a little bit of Jim Carrey in them all.
I mean, if they would have played into that, it would have made it a better film, in my opinion. You know, but I was always a big fan of the Riddler, and to see the like, I remember when that was initially coming out, and I mean, I was never a big DC guy. I'm just honestly not. There are certain characters within the DC universe I'm a fan of, but as a whole, it's just never been my cup of tea. You know, I always
I
preferred
agree.
Marvel. Yeah,
Marvel's always been my thing too.
yeah. Well, and then I honestly at a point got way more into other publishers, and by other I just mean other like
Image, Dark
there's a
Horse.
yeah, well, on it, man, chaos was my jam until some accountant dicked it up because they didn't know how to file their taxes properly. But that's neither here nor there. Shout out to Brian for creating everything he did and still managing to keep it around in some capacity. Um, but uh, but yeah, I mean, it was just never my cup of tea. And to know that Jim Carrey though was going to play the Riddler, which was probably always my favorite Batman villain, and and they there's just so much more he could have done with that character, you know. Like if they would have given him the ability to play the Riddler for real, Jim Carrey could have done it perfectly. Hell, he still could, to be real honest. Not that not that the Riddler from the Batman wasn't phenomenal. I did very much appreciate to see that version of him. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen just a darker twist. Because I'm sorry, the only good thing about Batman Forever were, in my opinion, and I might get in trouble. Like somebody might get mad at me for this. Whatever, get mad at me. Was Two Face and the Riddler.
Yeah,
The rest of that movie
I
kind of
agree.
yeah, it kind of sucks. Kind of sucks. Like if them two characters aren't on the screen, you just edit the rest of it out, man. And then you go to Batman and Robin. I don't know how nobody's written that down for the worst comic book adaptation as far as for the original questionnaire, to be real honest, because it's I've never seen Batman and Robin written down. And like really thinking about all the comic book adaptations I've seen from film to television, yeah, I think that one's the worst.
I agree. I really think it is the worst.
Yeah. People like to say Watchmen. I'm like, I mean, I get your point with Watchmen as far as that they didn't focus on what the story was actually supposed to be about in the film, and they made it more of a superhero film. But they didn't totally change the characters like they did in Batman and Robin. Like,
Yeah, and Poison Ivy. And I love Uma Thurman, man.
yeah, and I mean, yeah, Uma was good in that. There were certain small, tiny parts, but like, what's what's the problem?
Now he's gonna have the zoomies. Thanks.
I'm sorry.
You
My
gave the
son
dog.
just walked the dog and sprayed him with the hose, so now he's gonna run around the
On
house.
accident.
On accident, my ass.
No, I'm serious. He got in the way. He was on the porch. I tied him up and I was watering your vines up there.
Those vines are dead.
Well, I didn't know.
I thought he said he was watering your lines for a minute, and I was like, watering your lines? The hell does that even mean? I was really confused. Why did you let your vines die? I mean, come on. You got, and can I say that's another touch with the green that I really think is interesting on a different note. Like, I love the fact that it is about mental health awareness. But at the same time, most nature is green. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
I think that's something that people lose a connection with. And the more connection you have with nature, I think it really helps you understand that there's just a lot to this world in that capacity. So I think green is an important color in that capacity. The only way green isn't an important color is greed, because greed's a son of a bitch. You know?
And jealousy. They use green for jealousy as well. Green with envy.
That's true. That's odd to think that there are so many positives and negatives to that exact color.
It was the same thing with red. Red is the color of passion, but it's also the color of hatred and anger.
That's true. Why do we have to give everything a double entendre?
Because humans are multifaceted and complex.
You ever think so? So that's where we get these screwy ass comic books from that I end up reading. And I got you, because we're all just nuts. That's that's terrible, Chrissy. I still, man, I like. I'm curious then within this. So you're not even gonna have Chrissy be the main character in your series, right?
Not in all of the series, no.
Oh, so how many different series do you have planned within this world?
About 12, maybe more.
And they're going to be interconnected?
Some of them will be. Yeah.
And you've got all this written pretty much, or at least etched out to some degree?
Yeah.
That's a lot, Chrissy.
It is. It is.
Yeah, that is an absolute lot to go through as far as like, so how many different main characters are there in this world that you've created?
I can't even count them. I'd have to sit down with a list.
Are they all based off someone that you know?
No, not directly, no. Like more of
Okay.
them are based on like, okay, so the priest character, I was raised by my grandfather and my grandmother. She's not mentioned yet. But my relationship with my grandfather was actually more stable, and that character is based on all the father figures that I've had growing up.
And they put you in cups while you were growing up, did they? Sorry, I could not help myself. Like, because look, if you had a father figure that was shoving you inside a cup, I don't think that was a good father figure, Chrissy. I'm just saying.
No, I just thought that would be funny to do.
It was. It was a nice comical little moment. I just wanted to make sure no one was shoving you in a cup, Chrissy. All right.
No.
I just wanted to make
In
sure.
fact, the height difference between him and Chrissy and his skin tone and maybe a little bit of his looks are based on an old art teacher of mine. Yeah.
Well, he was just significantly taller than you?
No, I was taller than him.
Oh no, okay. Yeah, no. Look, you made yourself really small at the beginning of that particular issue and it stayed that way. I can't help
Yeah.
it. It threw me off. That's
But at her regular height, he's
okay.
way shorter than her.
Yeah. See, that's so. I'm sorry. I'm envisioning you this tall through the entirety of this comic. You know what I mean? Which like a freaking like a minifig for a D&D game or something. I can't help myself because that's the way it all was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how far are you as far as written into this series at this point?
Well, I have like the next 4 issues planned.
What? How much art do you have done?
Storyboards for about 2 of the issues.
Okay, because just with the way that you wrap that up, as far as issue 1, no spoilers. Which just so you know, there'll be a link in the description where y'all can go and check this out. As far as because they can they purchase this now?
Right now I'm taking orders through PayPal. I still have to set it up on Indie Planet so that they can buy one directly from them and just have it printed and sent out.
We'll look, depending on when you're checking this with Chrissy, we'll get me that link whenever she has it, and I'll make sure it's in the interview for whenever it's available. So if you might, I don't know if it will, I don't know how quick she's gonna get that done. I don't know exactly when this interview is gonna drop because I'm not gonna lie, I got a lot of stuff to edit at the moment. You know, I planned a bunch of interviews and like a week and a half's time, and just so Quest got built up. Got so much editing to do. So what'd you do about as far as going about, like, because I seen that you're doing a great deal of this. I love that you gave a shout out to Andrew for a quick tutorial in lettering, by the way. I thought that was pretty funny. Um,
Well, he
how did
did. I
you?
would not have been able to finish this comic without him.
Oh, I wish I still. Damn it! I should have left that pulled up on my screen just so I could have looked through all the credits as far as who you all had involved, because I can't remember who the editor was.
There was no editor. It was just
Okay,
me.
that's what I half thought, but like I said, I couldn't remember. Sorry, I've actually interviewed a couple editors recently as well, so I didn't want to besmirch somebody had they been the editor on this particular book. My bad. I didn't look closely enough at the credits, Chrissy. I was more paying attention to the story and what I was reading. And then it was like, oh shit, I got to start this show. That way Chrissy's not waiting around for me. So yeah, and I meant to leave it pulled up on my screen, but I didn't because I needed to start exporting a different quests, and that's a whole different point altogether. Um, so what was it like? I mean, taking this from nothing to entirely what it was, because I mean, I know in the creation of a lot of comics, you've got a writer, you've got an editor, you've got an inker, you've got a letter, you've got a colorist, like every layer, there's someone, right? And I know you've been part of that experience as far as doing some coloring, doing some inking. You've done a number of different things. What was the experience like knowing that you were just putting it all out there like that for yourself, by yourself?
It was overwhelming and intimidating, and to be honest, it took me way longer than it should have. But as I went, I learned how to be faster and more efficient at it. Because I would sketch it all out on paper, and then I would go and I would just do storyboards on the computer with it. And then I just decided I'm just going to take the sketches that I did, even though they're not finished, and just start inking and drawing it and then coloring it in. And then I ended up drawing the background and the characters so that if I had to change it, I had to redraw the background. And I was just like, it was so frustrating because then I was like, just put everything on different layers so that if I make the character smaller, I can like adjust the background too. It was a really long learning process.
Well, what made you decide? I mean, because I know a number of people within the industry. You know, what made you decide to just go full tilt and do this just you, as opposed to like even say reaching out to Chris?
Well, that's the thing. A lot of them are like really busy, and I think it would have taken even longer if I had to like say, work with them and say, can you get this done, and then me do this done. It was just easier to like focus on it myself. That, and I'm really self-conscious about my art still, so I didn't like the idea of like showing it half finished to somebody else so they could ink it. So
I mean, the comic looks phenomenal. I've seen comics of all levels. I mean, from I still need to have Dave show me actually the AI art comic that they've got in the store. We don't get into that whole debacle. I don't intend to purchase and support it. I kind of just want to see it, out of curiosity. Like, because apparently there's points where like characters have 6 and 7 fingers and this and that, and like I just like to thumb through it to actually see what it is. Like I said, I don't. Yeah, and with one thumb, not two, because I'm not an AI character. Uh, but but yeah, and I mean to really amateur, to black and white, to everything in between. To from Alex Ross to it half looks like a kid drew it. You know, and what you've done. I mean, it looks great, and like I said, it very much fits the story that you were writing. Um, it just I don't see why you were so judgmental towards yourself. Now, at the same time, I say that, and sometimes I write a line, and somebody else might think it's great, and I'm like, God damn it, I can do better. Yeah.
yeah. Well, the thing is, my art evolved a lot throughout the years, and I think for the longest time, to be completely honest, in 2009, I had some people kind of rip my art online, and I got really self-conscious about it, and I took everything down. And
There
I
are
should have listened to
people.
the fans that actually liked my work, but
Yeah.
I had self-esteem issues, so
Mm,
I let
All
it
I
break
have
me
to
down, and I didn't draw for a while.
all I have to say to that is I guarantee there are people online that would nitpick Alex Ross's art.
Yeah, and I have to remember that, and I have to
Whoa,
remember to focus
you
on my
went
fans.
dark.
Can you turn that light back on?
You went dark.
Hmm?
I said you went dark.
Yeah, he
Oh,
turned the light off.
all right, there you go. Yeah, I think that's something that you always have to remember as an artist. That's why, like, you can't look at Twitter and concern yourself with responses. If you're an artist, you just need to put it out there. Um, I guess perhaps you probably should look at them a little because some people can critique constructively. Um, but a lot of people are just not enjoying their own personal time as far as their life or whatever. So they're like, oh, well, I can go and be an asshole to this person and make them not feel as good.
Yeah, and I have to follow Kevin Smith's lead on that because he doesn't pay attention to the haters on Twitter. He pays attention to his fans. Except for every once in a while, he'll get really pissed off and be like, fuck you.
Really? I'm kind of curious to see Kevin do that, man. Because like I said, like I've said in the past interview with you and Chris, I've been a fan of
I
Kevin
think
Smith.
it wasn't that long ago somebody said something about he should have died from the heart attack when they saw Clerks 3. And I think that really pissed him off.
That's a little much.
Yeah, and that's kind of sort of the same shit that I got in 2009. I had some people telling me that my art sucked and that I should die. And that's what broke me.
That's just people that hate their lives so much they wish they would get struck by a lightning bolt but won't admit it. Really, that's all that is in my opinion. That's nothing more than cowards. If you're going to sit there and wish death upon someone for a piece of art that they made, that's pretty cowardly and it's pretty pathetic on a number of different levels. For anybody out there watching this, if you're watching this just to be that kind of asshole, do me a favor, turn the fucking show off. Like, really, because there's no point to it. If you're on here watching this just to be hateful in some capacity, oh my god, dude, get a life.
I
Really.
could never be like that. Like, I don't like Twilight, and I don't like what is it, 50 Shades of Grey. I'm not into that stuff, but I'm not gonna sit there and say the people who made it need to die. Like,
The only time I've ever had situations like that, and I never wish death upon anyone, and understand this is because I'm a hip hop artist, and the hip hop community is very different than the comic book community, especially when it comes to those that create. Um, Obviously, I think anybody that knows anything about either or both specifically would know this. There's a lot of hip hop artists that just get shot, you know, um, or end up beating the shit out of one another in the streets and such. Um, you don't. I don't think I've ever heard of a comic book convention where Jack Kirby or Stan Lee was over beating the shit out of Bob Kane or something.
although Bob Kane needed his ass beat for the shit he did to Bill Finger, but
I mean, I'm not saying there aren't situations where people needed their ass beaten in that or beat in that situation, but you know, people never took it to that level of violence because they were more civil, within the comic book community. Which I think is something that the whole world could learn from, to be real frank. It's just artists trying to create art for people to be able to listen to, consume, and enjoy. There,
yeah.
yeah, there's no reason to be openly hostile about it unless for some reason it directly affects your life. Like I could look, I could see Eminem's mom being mad. Okay, all right. I understand that, even though she deserved everything that was said, I could still see that bitch being mad. You know what I mean? Like you really just put that out to the world, and it really got out to like everyone. Like I could see comic book creators doing that. I could see, but I don't think it would make a creator within the comic book community mad. Or, I mean, at least, like I said, it's nothing that I've ever seen. Uh, the greatest things I could think of in the comic book community that there were really issues that became public were either when a bunch of artists left and started what is currently the third biggest comic book company. Shout out to Image. I love y'all.
Yes.
I love the creators that we've had from Image. I love the creators we've had from every company though. But we have had some great creators that do work for Image. Though several of them do work for Marvel or DC or other companies as well, you know. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and rattle off the list, Chrissy, because I'm not trying to name drop like that. I've done quite a bit of name dropping already. Um, or an issue I heard about recently, which is Comic Gate. What do you know of that?
I don't know about that.
Okay, don't Google it.
I remember Gamergate, but I haven't
It's,
heard of Comic Gate.
don't Google Comic Gate unless you just want to be upset with people being douchebags. I will be bringing Heather Antos on the show at a later time. We just got to arrange a date where she can come on for a quest. It's not something we're going to discuss, though, because it's disgusting from everything I read. I can't even remember who the hell was like, we're not talking about it. He's like, just don't bring this up. I was like, that's fine. But in seeing it, I had to be like, well, what the hell is that? You know? Because it was suddenly introduced as a topic that should have been off the board. So I looked into it. And I don't even know exactly what Gamersgate is, to be real honest.
It's about, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was about like trying to prevent somebody from being part of the gaming community because of whatever. I'm not going to get into it either, but it's like prejudice against girls, I guess, being gamers or something.
Okay, yeah. So
I tried to ignore it when I heard about it because I don't like drama.
So a comic game was pretty much the exact same thing, just in the comic book industry, right? Um, those are the only two things where I can think of in the comic book industry specifically where things got hostile like that is when, like I said, a bunch of creators just up and told Marvel to fuck off, you know, or the whole Comic Gate thing, which is flat out absurd and absolutely no reason for any of it. You know, I understand the first one that I mentioned, as far as Image being created and creators wanting to create, like, have rights to their own creations, that makes sense. That's fine. And that never got as ridiculous as the second that I mentioned, which I'm not even going to mention again because it doesn't deserve it, to be frank. And if anybody wants to come on this show and promote it, please fuck off. Thank you, righteously and proper, right? Because Jesus, you know. But the first, like I said, in the creation of images, I understand. So, out of curiosity, if say a larger publisher approached you, all right, and was like, "Hey, we want to publish the entirety of your story, but we want the rights to it," what would you do?
No.
Just no, just no,
No. No.
no,
The rights stay with me.
no, no. So you'd have to deal with Image. That's pretty much what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. So, what do you think?
I'm sorry, but indie artists and indie comics are doing better now than a lot of regular comics because, like, you have the whole Kickstarter thing, and just about every comic that's put on Kickstarter it meets its goal and is funded 100% or more most of the time. So, like, why would I?
Fair point, fair point. And I mean, you even have established creators that use Kickstarter in that regard. Like Brian Polito, I think I pronounced his name right. I hope I did, sir. It's the creator of Lady Death, Evil Ernie, and a number of other things. I mean, he uses Kickstarter all the time to push things, and that's somebody that's been around for quite some time and is very, very established within the comic book community. So he has his fan base, and he uses that to make sure the people that want it get it, and it gets done. So it's totally, totally viable as far as to run it that way. I don't think there's any problem with that. And I do fully agree that a lot of the stuff that comes out indie wise is it's superior because there's more there's something more personal to the stories. You know what I'm saying? Not to say
There's
that they're
also more freedom. You don't have the suits saying you can't do this or you need to include this.
see now, and we've had conversations with several creators that have worked for the big two, as well as worked with Image, done their own creations. Erica is a great example of this. As someone that has worked with Marvel, as well as she's got the Deadliest Bouquet that's dropped from Image, which actually started as a Kickstarter, as well as she's just done a number of other things that started on her own. And when you're working with one of the big two, I don't know that. And part of the thing is you're driving one part of a massive machine. You know what I mean? So it's not like they're going to allow you to say take the Punisher and suddenly make him all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about with your own stuff though. Like if you're a creator and you make a character and they include that, like you make a character and they include it in Batman, then they could change that character and you have no say over it.
And that's how you got Image.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's literally the reasoning behind Image being created, is based on the fact that there were a bunch of guys at Marvel that were sick of creating characters that just got taken from them and then they had no rights to. And if anybody wants to research that, I promise you there's a long story.
Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, I can't remember the rest. But Jim Lee's the one that I looked up to the most. That was my favorite artist as a kid.
Jim Lee, Mark Silvestro. I hope I butcher names over here. I'm probably butchering his. Mark, I'm sorry. I'm a great fan of your work, as far as especially the Darkness that you did with Garth Ennis, and he's a phenomenal artist. He also just did the Batman Joker series. But him, Todd, Jim Lee, I'm absolutely sure I'm missing a couple, man. But I mean, they did then continue on to have so many great artists and writers within Image, as well as Top Cow, that later became the subsidiary of Image, doing so much, and it all ended up creator owned. I understand their point. I mean, what if you were working for one of the big two? If you created a character like that, you think it would bug you? I mean, knowing you're creating, really?
It would bug me. It would bug me a lot.
But I mean, to know that you created a character that's going to continue its legacy within either the Marvel or DC universe and just be there forever, and you're the one that's responsible for the creation, you don't think that's kind of like something that's like, hey, I made that, and part of it at least will always be mine.
I mean, it would be kind of cool, but then it's like if they start making changes that I don't agree with or like later on, like,
I don't think you could ever get a contract with either of those companies where it said, hey, these certain things have to stick. I don't know that. Yeah, especially because you're technically dealing with Warner Brother and Disney. Yeah. You better have a real good lawyer, Chrissy.
Well, that's why I'm not going to work with them.
So
I
you
don't
wouldn't
need a lawyer to work with them.
So wait, out of curiosity, so you would never work with Marvel or DC?
No.
Really?
Really?
Like, even if they just say they hired you to do just art on a certain story arc, you wouldn't want to. You wouldn't.
Oh, if I was hired to just draw their characters, then sure. But
I mean, that's what I mean. As far as just working with them, if they hired you either to just write or draw a certain story for, and it's like, here are these characters you need to use. We need you to write this story that's kind of going to go in this arc.
I mean, maybe if I wasn't too busy with my own stuff. I mean, my own stuff takes priority.
Well, especially with you planning 12 different series with a 60 issues total within a whole universe. I mean, that's quite an endeavor to take upon yourself, especially if you intend to do it all yourself without having, without bringing additional people in, which I'd
like to bring in additional people once I got more established, but right now it's kind of a funds kind of thing. I don't want to have someone come and work for me if I can't pay them.
But why not try and get the collective that you have? Why not just try and run it on Kickstarter and really push it that way? Just out of curiosity.
Because it's intimidating. setting up a Kickstarter knowing exactly how much to ask for, that's the part that scares me, because then I'm like, if I don't make enough, then what am I going to do?
That's why you have to do a lot of math before you put out the number that you need.
I don't like math. I just like art. If somebody else took over the math part, I would be like, okay.
I mean, well, then you at least have to hire an accountant before you put a Kickstarter up.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was just a theory because, like I said, I'd like to because I feel like with you doing these entirely in yourself, like how often do you think you'll be able to get another issue out?
See, that's the thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
Because
I
I'm
mean,
also, as doing it solo, I am a mother of 4 children and I'm extremely busy. And it, yeah,
well, and
having
then
the time to work on it is limited.
yeah, and then occasionally you got Chris hitting you up talking about, hey, I need you to color this so we can send it to Dark Horse.
No, see, that's not even a problem. His artwork is so simplistic that it, and plus he already gives me color guides so that I just follow along and then it's done. I can get his stuff slammed out in a couple of hours.
That's still a couple. I mean, but you're getting also paid for that work through that and everything, and that's different. So, but I mean, that's still a couple of hours. Which I mean, how long do you think it took you to get this first issue together entirely?
Are you talking about from writing it or the actual drawing of it?
How many hours do you think you put in for everything
Hours?
for this issue to become into creation? Or did I need to say days?
The amount of time that I worked on it total would probably be about 3 months worth of time, but that was like spanned out within years because I had to work on it when I could.
So are you going to try and crunch out the next few issues? Like, are you going to try and keep it a little tighter? Or, I mean, like,
Yeah,
honestly, what are you
I'm gonna try to get the work done. I'm gonna try to slam them out as fast as I can now that I've gotten this first one out and I know what works and what doesn't as far as getting something drawn in a timely manner. You know, it's learning tricks and techniques and stuff. Like I've within the last couple of months, I've learned new. Like I just learned that I can use my cell phone with the drawing software that I have as like a little pad over here, and I can just switch through the different controls instead of having to tap on my screen. So I can just left-handed go click, 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 draw, click, click, and change layers and everything. And I'm like, where was that 3 years ago?
Well, I mean that is one benefit of, as far as you doing a lot of it digitally, is everything advances so quickly that you're always going to have more options. And I mean that's just something that it does. Like, because I mean, if you were doing it, you know, the old school way with just paper and a pencil, I'd imagine it would be way more of a pain in your ass.
Well, that and the papers would probably get destroyed.
Chrissy, I want to say the issue looks great. The art that you've used for this story fits the story. I want you to know that. It does, very much so. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you create the rest of this. Get to work on it.
All right.
All right? Sincerely, right? I want everybody to check out all the links in the description. You'll be able to go and hopefully find it where you can purchase all of this. Um, the quest may be out before that link is there. You may have to come back to this quest at a later point in time before that link's there. I don't know. That depends on how quickly I get all of the ones that I already have ready to edited and out. Like, do I just decide to start dropping 2 or 3 a week, and what do I do in that regard? And how quickly Chrissy gets it set up to where you can go and purchase it and they'll print you one. So there's a couple different factors there, and frankly, they're unknown. And ladies and gentlemen, I am the unknown factor. This has been Chrissy Wiseman in the house, right? Um, is there anything I missed, Chrissy? Did I? Is there, right? Because there's part of me that's like, I feel like there's a question I should have asked that I didn't.
No, that's cool.
All
Like,
right.
I mean, I do have the issues here. So if anybody does want to order some from me directly, all I have to do is private message me.
Oh well, look, you just gotta flash a bunch of fans. Wait, hold that up again. How many different covers you got? Oh wait. So that blank sketch cover. Can somebody hit you up and be like, "Hey, I want you to sketch something on it"?
I think that I would prefer for them to take them to other artists so that other artists can draw them some covers. So if you have like a favorite artist in mind and you can find them at a convention or something, you can get your own custom cover. Because I've already made this one.
I could sit and okay. I like that.
And then this one was drawn by the artist Tori Gray, and that's my daughter. And then this one was drawn by John Bruce. He's a sketch card artist. And that's a homage cover to Indiana Jones issue.
I like the dice. Yeah, I like that.
And then this one is a landscape cover, which is really rare in comics. And this was done by Chris McDonald, and it was inked and colored by Jay Boyd.
I was about to be like, if there's not one there done by Chris, I'm gonna be really, really surprised. I really am, like sincerely. And can I say, for those sketch covers, if you're at a con and you run across Hugh Rookwood or Mike Ruth, I personally would recommend one of them. The sketch covers they do blow my damn mind. Check their Facebook; it is bloody amazing. And look, so I'm gonna put your we're gonna have your info to where you can directly hit up Chrissy to get that if you want to, because she's got copies of it. And then there will be a link once, like I said, it exists to where you'll be able to order it elsewise. Hell, order it from Chrissy. She might be nice enough to sign it. You never know. And then you've got like this really rare, like wow, man, that's just when it blows up, because that's what you got to do, Chrissy. You got to work your ass off so it blows up. Make it a quest, right? That's
it is a quest, but the quest that has to be finished first is my husband has to finish building my studio.
Hey, sometimes you just got to work where you can work. Trust me, go look at the past episode of the questionnaires. It's been this quest has taken place in a number of locations. But again, ladies and gentlemen, I am the Unknown Factor. Make sure you check out all the links in the description. Get a hold of Chrissy. Get yourself a comic book. Make sure first you like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, and always get your comic on. Have a good night, y'all.
Bye.